Today's scripture is a simple one, and it becomes a challenge as a pastor because it's simple, one we all know, and yet we have to make it interesting and new because we need to hear it again and again and again. If you have nothing nice to say, then don't say anything at all, right? To be kind and to be nice, and in this letter of James, we're reminded that shortly after Jesus was among them and shared miracles and rose from the dead and did all these wonderful things and words of him spread, people went back to being mean, even within his community. And last week we talked a little bit about, remember the old rules, we talked a little bit about not letting women on the ship, right? And we talked about when Jesus said about the dogs, even the dogs, right? The woman says, even the dogs eat crumbs from the table. That words matter. They do. I've never truly liked that saying, if sticks and stones may break my bones, then words will never hurt me. Because I don't think it's authentic. I do think words hurt. And I think biblically we hear that the way we talk about one another, or the way we talk when there's no one around, that it matters. There's a children's book. Have you ever read the book? Who here knows? It later became a movie called Wonder. Anybody ever read it? No? Or watch the movie? I recommend it. Braden's class is reading it. And even as adults, we need to hear it. But it's a true story about a little boy that had a traumatic birth. And he had some major facial deformities. And he had multiple surgeries. And he was always felt ugly because of this. He always felt ugly. But he was really good at science, and so he would oftentimes, as a child, wear a space helmet. When he got to be a little bit older, the parents knew that in order for their son to have a full life, he had to face the bullies, he had to feel confident. He needed to do it before middle school, because as we all know, the older kids get, do they seem to get nicer? No! So the family knows they need to send this little boy to school so he can build friends before he gets to middle school. And he's nervous and he wants to wear his helmet. And his dad is getting frustrated, and I'm sure this is a common dad thing where the dads feel like the moms are babying the kids and there's this back and forth. So the dad hides the space astronaut helmet. No more helmet. Kid's going to school, he's going to have to learn to love himself. And so the kid goes to school, and it's a private school, and what happens is he gets bullied, right? I mean, it happened. They knew it was coming down the barrel, and they knew he would be bullied. And he sits alone, and oftentimes they say that the little boy is a plague. If you touch him, you'll get the plague. Again, very common childhood experience. Don't touch that person. It always kind of finds some sort of irony or wisdom teaching, because when we read the scriptures, what do we remember about the scriptures? Don't touch them, they're dirty. Don't help them, they're a Gentile. And we do the same things over and over again. So this little boy goes to school and people are being mean. And eventually, some of the kids who got scholarships were being encouraged to be nice to this boy. And they didn't totally like it. They felt like they had a harder time being cool because they didn't have as much money. But one little boy, through this pressuring, gets to know him and realizes they have fun together. And that after some time, you do sort of get used to his face, and you do just move on in life. And he enjoys his friend. And the little boy picks up another little girl who's just tired of having mean, fake friends. You can see this in a lot of high schoolers. There'll come a point where the child matures and they say, I don't want any more fake friends. I don't care who's the most popular. I just want a real friend. So the child is going and it's getting better, and he has 2 friends despite being constantly bullied. And the school year goes on, and the next major holiday comes, which we're all about to have, which is Halloween. And the little boy gets in a debate with his friend about which holiday is better, Halloween or Christmas. And the little boy, who was raised feeling most comfortable behind a mask, behind a space helmet, argues that it's Halloween. He gets to put a mask on and feel like everybody else. Nobody's afraid to touch him. Nobody's afraid that he's going to give him the plague. And the little boy goes to school, and he's so excited. He's fist bumping other kids with the same costume, and he's happy. And then he goes to the bathroom, and nobody knows who he is. And he overhears his new friend, who's caving to peer pressure. And he caves to peer pressure, and his new friend is saying to the group of boys, "Why do you even hang out with him?" "I don't know, because my mom makes me." And then the little boy hears, "Well, he's still so ugly, blah, blah, blah. I know if I was that ugly, I'd blah, blah, blah myself." And the little boy is in tears. His favorite holiday ruined. The people he thought was his friends broken down. I couldn't help but think that's a little bit what's going on in churches in our era. And even what's going on here in James. That when people feel like our friends, it can hurt twice as bad if one person says a mean thing. The little boy didn't have 20 friends, right? So if I have 20 friends and 2 of my friends say, "Catherine, you're being a jerk." Well, whatever, those are 2 out of 18, right? But this little guy had only 2 friends, and 1 out of 2 was saying mean things. He runs home, and he's devastated, and he's hurt. And I think that's what was going on with James here, is when Jesus and the community was changing the culture, and a slave culture, and a patriarchal society, and a haves and have-not community, and trying to make everybody see each other as a child of God, and as a sibling, as someone to love, people easily revert back to our cultural ways. Beauty, money, power, those are the ones we want to sit by, right? James chapter 2 talked about not giving favorable seats to those who come from money. So here we are, this little boy goes home upset, devastated, and he wants to call it quits, doesn't want to go back into society, doesn't want. Dad pretends not to know where the helmet is, and the little sister tries to help him, and it gets a little bit better. He eventually goes out for Halloween. He didn't want to go, but his sister promises to give him all her candy, which she later recanted. They get their candy, and things get better. And over time, which I found was interesting, was their little Minecraft world, that can talk to each other in the video games. The 2 came together, and it was easier through a video game for the 2 to be honest. And the little boy tells the older boy, basically, "I know what you said about me, and it hurts. That's why we're not friends." And the other older boy apologizes. Sometimes it's easier to apologize or to hide behind a mask or even a video game. And I kind of think that's what's going on a little bit now. We all are worried about how much screen time a child spends. I think if we're being honest, kids spend more time on video games or screens because they feel safer. Because they can hide in a virtual world rather than talk to their neighbor or a kid in class. And so here they are in this virtual world, and they decide to become friends. And as time goes on, the bullying gets worse. And one particular bully just continues to push the line. Stop letting this kid have friends. And he's sending him terrible notes, and he's bullying him. And he posts eventually on the kid's locker a picture of the class, your school picture of your class. And in the picture, he's been photoshopped out. And there's some mean words. And one of the teacher catches it and says, "Hey, would you just talk to us?" And then they show the little boy's bully letters and the photoshopped picture. And they call the other kids' parents in. And they're fighting. "Oh, my kid's not the one being bullied. It's the other kids bullying my child. My kid's not the bully." You find out through this conversation that the mother is probably grooming her child to be a bully. To the point where she says, "Oh, no, it wasn't my son who photoshopped the class photo. It was me." I just didn't want his class photo looking ugly or only looking at him. And then when the school principal says, well, we kids can't have that, you're going to be suspended, yada, 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 they threaten to stop donating their money and walk away. Very much a bully move, right? My way or the highway. Take it or leave it. Oops, sorry. As time went on, I don't have a speaker. As time, is it okay? Okay. As time went on, here we go. As time went on, the little boy eventually grows in friendship, and the kids learn about bullying and what is not right. Oh my gosh, this is driving me nuts. Just turn it off.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's annoying. Okay, so the little boy goes on, and the class year gets better, and more kids become his friends. And at one point, the school of kids work together to offset some 7th grade bigger bullies, right? I mean, we're talking middle school kids. And they work together, and the little guy with the face deformities, after a year of abuse and bullying, finally stands his ground. And he earns the respect of the bullies from his own grade. And we talked a little bit about that with the woman underneath Jesus' table last week, that Jesus knew exactly what the woman was going to say, that Mama Bear would come out and she would be wise, and she would show this group of men at a table that Gentile women are just as smart as anybody else. And she stands her ground, and because she stands her ground, all of a sudden then, the community respects her, right? There is this level of standing up for yourself and standing your ground. Changing culture is not an easy thing. Eventually, the little boy did grow to graduate, gets a reward, and becomes and develops a core group of friends to face the ultimate obstacle a child with facial deformities must face, and that's middle school and hormones. He gets the friends and he gets the self-confidence. And I think that's what Jesus wants us to do. I think those early Christian communities want you to get together, to stand up for yourself, stand up for your community, and face it together. But one of the greatest harms that can happen to any community is gossip. Toxic gossip. And we have here a story. Anybody know of the famous person Dietrich Bonhoeffer? You know the person? He's that controversial Lutheran pastor that decides to kill Hitler, right? And eventually he goes to jail, and this is a true story too. Bonhoeffer had one rule for the community of his underground seminary students in Finkenwald. I like it because it's an underground society, which was much like our first Christians, right? An underground group. One rule for the community. It was that no one should speak about another student in his absence or tell that student if he did do it. His former students recalled the many times they broke this rule and how they learned from their mistakes. Gossip damages the body of Christ. I'm not preaching this because I think that you're all gossiping. So nobody sit there thinking, oh gosh. I know sometimes when a pastor preaches this, you're like thinking back, what did I say? I'm not doing that. I'm not trying to divide you all. I just think it's really important as we face a lot in our community, as we face bullies, as we face people that are mean to children, that we be different, that we set aside, that we set an example, that when we mess up like Bonhoeffer's community, we go and let the other person know. The easiest way to break apart a resistance or a group of people that are standing against evil is to have that group break themselves apart. It's words we all need to hear. It's words we all know. Words we were told as children, and words that will be told for another thousands of years to come. If you don't have anything nice to say, then don't say anything at all. All right, go in peace, children of God. And check out that book, Wonder, or the movie.